Hello. I love the Christmas lights. I love light in general. Twinkly things, sparkly things. Times when my family all got together and sang songs that we all knew, songs that were the same every year. We just had fun. Cookies. Buying people presents, making people presents, thinking of each other. When I was a kid, I loved Christmas. I still love Christmas, if I'm honest. It's just the older you get, the more you realize it's like a moment of pressure, but maybe pressure just means pause. And maybe when I'm feeling pressure, it's like a warning and saying you're letting time slip away. I don't know what that means. Warning. But maybe that's what it means, is you're letting time slip away and you're not using it for the things you value most. And maybe when I was a kid, Christmas didn't feel as much like pressure because we started thinking about it a month ahead, and we did advent calendars, and we really put our hearts into it. And I think sometimes the things that feel like pressure is because I'm not putting my heart into it. And that's really messed up, because maybe the reason I always get show day anxiety is because some part of me is unwilling to put my heart into it. Like I squashed my own heart. Like I blocked my own heart. Like I froze my own heart. Like I'm just a big old trauma baby, and I refuse to thaw out. And I refuse to wake up, even though I've learned all the wisdoms needed from the trauma. Thank you very much. Like, I got it. I get it. And some people just stay bitter their whole lives. They stay bitter and angry and sad because of bad things that happened to them when they were 20 or 10 or 30 or 45 or 52. Divorces, deaths, reasons they had to move for a job, for life reasons, a flood, a house fire, who knows what. Natural disaster of any kind, unnatural disaster of any kind, social disasters of any kind, financial disasters of any kind. And I just think sometimes I act like I'm unique to trauma and trauma's unique to me, but the only reason I act like that is because no one's talking about this. Like, people don't get on their phones like I'm doing, like, hey everyone, warning, warning, warning. We're all feeling all this stuff. We're all feeling all this stuff every day, and no one, or almost no one, is talking about it. And at the very best sometimes is like literature, works of art, playwrights, poets. But who's doing this? Mr. Rogers, I love him. Sesame Street. Like, why do we do it for kids and not for adults? Like, I don't want to make a kids show. When I was younger, I used to think I had to switch from adult music to kids music, but guess what? That wasn't because I cared more about kids. It's because I thought that would be simpler. But every time I've tried to start a kids album, my kids album so far is extremely complex, because I think kids are complex. It's actually simpler for me to just talk to adults, because then I can just be my adult self and be like, hey, this sucks, all of this. But you know what? It does suck to be in pain about any one of those things I just listed. But what sucks more is to give your whole life away. I was going to say throw away, but it's not throw away, it's give. It's devotion. You've devoted your life to that trauma and to the bitterness that resulted, or the anger that resulted, or the sorrow, grief that's unhealed that resulted. And so much of me feels like that's all I do, but at the end of the day, or at the other end of the spectrum, I guess I really don't. Because I think what I do is I lead with it sometimes, but then I talk myself out of it, and then I go somewhere else. And then I start exploring other themes, and end up feeling pretty good about my life and myself and my health and my being and my heart and my wisdoms and my Instagram and my YouTube and my love of Christmas lights, and my love of wearing cute things on my head and going on adventure drives, and just being a person who's 42 and obviously enjoying this dark shot a little better, because now you can't see any imperfections on my face, but so what? You want to watch the last video too, where I felt imperfections on my face and I talked about it. Like, is that heartening for you? Does that give you courage? Because it gives me courage to share it. as awful as it feels at times to share so openly, it also gives me courage. And that's why I keep doing it. That's why I can't stop doing it. I keep trying to stop. And then I'm like, but it gives me courage. It gives me courage to go onward. It gives me courage to be a songwriter and courage to be a creative person, an expressive person. Every time I express something that isn't just art in some sort of capital A sort of thinking that art or poetry or songwriting has to be some sort of slick and polished thing. I mean, it doesn't have to be, but like if my goal is a Grammy, then I would be on a very different path. And I would love to have people honor me or my work somewhere along the line, but I'm not sure that I can box in or throw away all these other things that actually feel more important. Like the whole reason someone's drawn to being an artist is to help people get in touch with something. Like if you're an Enneagram number 4 person type like me, you know, the turbulent, emotional, heart-centered kind that's all over the place. It's like, well, we have a purpose in the world. We're not just here to be the emotional babies of the universe. Like we also have a purpose of helping people get in touch with beauty and wonder and feeling and healing. You know, we have a purpose. And so it's strange to me that so many of us, instead, we kill our own power and we go sit in a hole and hide until we can create some genius work of art. And most of us already have created something that you could call genius. I would bet anyone who is describable as a 4 on the Enneagram has probably already created something that felt like they touched genius, the same way that in like Greek literature or somewhere, I think it's Greek, not mythology, it might be dramas, I don't know, somewhere, might have been philosophy, it might be Plato or Aristotle, but somewhere way back in time, they never said you are a genius, they said you have a genius, as in you were touched by something else that gave you that. And I know when I write songs, if there is ever a time when they are really flowing, that's not me. That's me getting out of the way. That's my own thinking and grabbing and clinging, getting out of the way. So I have to believe that that's happening all over the planet. And some of us just know how to get out of the way more than others, but even that is taught and learned. Go to 5090.org. Go to FAWM, FAWM.org. Those are songwriting versions of it, but those are just places where you can learn how to just unblock yourself creatively. Read anything by Julia Cameron. Anything at all. Unblock. Just unblock, unblock, unblock. Anything on writer's block. Because it applies to almost any art. It applies to writing articles. It applies to doing business proposals. It applies to anything where you need yourself to be able to just flow and riff. Jazz improv, doing solos. So many things where your own thinking mind is grabbing something and wanting to get in the way because you think you have to think it or you think you have to do it. Even planning for your future is often like that. And I'm struggling with that, so I'm not trying to preach. Anyway, this is Grand Haven. I'm back in my hometown. Just deposited a check for some piano lessons that I taught and am teaching. From my brother, actually. I teach 2 of his kids, which is lovely and a light in my life, especially because his older 2 see me on Instagram. So between that, I'm seeing all 4 pretty regularly now, or feeling connected to all 4. And then I see my sister's 3 kids. I teach all of them lately. So lots of dreamy vibes in there. I moose have a kiss. Wow. It's a t-shirt. I think it's trying to say like I must have a kiss, but it just doesn't even make sense. Oh, I think it's supposed to be like a pajama shirt, but it's wild looking. Oh my gosh, I'm in front of the silliest store. Old school vibes. Anyway, oh, cute stuffed animal dogs. Yeah, don't have much else to say. I just thought the light was pretty. Guess I could write a song. I will. Do it on the keyboard. Dun, 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 dun. It's stuck. That is very tight. Okay, hang on. And going backwards. I kind of blocked the view a little bit. Not really. Who cares? Okay. There we go. The steering wheel wants to play some notes. I'm going to turn off my blinker. Jingle bells. Just kidding. Okay. How do I sit so that I don't keep bumping it on the steering wheel? How have I done this before? Okay. Keeps bumping on the steering wheel. Okay. There. That seems like it won't fall over. Oof, now it bumped on my coat. Okay. Got this. I'm leaning on one armrest plus my knee. It's kind of wobbly, but I'm trying my best. If my coat bumps more notes, I apologize. I'll try my best, but I don't even know if this song is for you or for me. I'm just going to go inside my own self and my own heart and my own head and see what I feel. Okay. To place to yourself. Well, I don't even know what I did, but I made it rattle when I dropped it. I think it's fixed. That was weird. Anyway, there's a weird song about most everyone I know having a lot of privilege in the wealth department, but maybe some real, true, genuine lack in the either emotion or healing or spiritual department. And you know, both are real. If you feel a deep existential pain every single day that's crushing you, or depression, anxiety, all those things, I use more words to describe it, but yes, depression, anxiety, all those things, like, that is real. That is your experience. It doesn't matter how much wealth you have. If that's what you're feeling on a day-to-day basis, that's real. And that's real for, if it's real for you, it's real. But that doesn't mean it's not fixable. That doesn't mean it's, you know, the end of the story. It just means it's where you're at today. And I have a lot of hope for people because I have felt very different feelings in my life. About 20 years ago, or certainly somewhere in the 15 to 10 years ago, I was at some of the darkest chapters of my life, living in situations that were some of the most impossible to live in situations of anyone I've ever known. Kind of the stereotypical bad things you can think of I was living in. And I didn't know how to get out of those situations at the time, because it's very hard to, like, the same way I don't like the pull yourself up by the bootstraps kind of conversation, I also don't like implying that the person who's hurting can also be the one who can figure it out. Implying that the person who's in crisis can also be the one who can figure out how to solve the crisis. It's very hard to solve a crisis with the same brain that's experiencing the crisis. That's like a twist on the Einstein quote about how we can't solve the problem at the level, you won't find the solution at the same level as the problem. So whatever level that problem is at, the solution's somewhere else. You can't, it's kind of like why I don't like it when people yell at hate. Like, if you don't like hate, don't hate hate. Don't hate people who are being hateful. That does not solve it. That's trying to solve the problem using the problem. Creating a problem, thinking that that's solving a problem, it's not solving a problem. It's bringing it to the light, perhaps. But now, instead of one problem, you have two problems. But they're both being brought to the light, that's true. But the hate of hate isn't solving hate. It may be enlightening others, but then you need to hope that some people who have some actual solutions will be attracted to those situations. Because if they're not, if the whole thing's a toxic cesspool of ideas and yelling and crucifying people, then you're probably not going to attract the people who would maybe have the right kind of minds for the solutions. But hate does not solve hate. Anyway, similar to that, that's where, that was a tangent, but similar to that, I mean, I'll use myself as an example, and I do that on purpose because I never want you to feel attacked, and I never want you to feel like I am removed from it and just randomly preaching. I am not randomly preaching. No one does this randomly. I'm doing this, I do these as part of my songwriting life. That's why this is all called songwriter life. I do this as all connected because my life has been all connected, and I want people to understand what it is to be a songwriter. Like, I feel like we worship these songwriters like Bob Dylan or Joni Mitchell on high, like they're some sort of untouchable island of poetry and wisdom. And it's like, what? Where do you think that came from? It came from them living in a tumultuous, emotional, thoughtful, introspective, bizarre, painful life. All of it. So they're no different than you if you're living a thoughtful or introspective or bizarre or painful life. And maybe you know to keep yours more secret, or not know, it's not hierarchical. You're not better than them either. The same way you're not less than them and hero worshiping them, you're also not better than them just because you don't express it. Like, it's just different colors in a box of crayons, you know? And they're the weird rainbow, or like the puke bow. I'm just kidding. But I sometimes do think, like, I mean, I'm not saying I'm like the color puke, but sometimes I do think expressing, and I'm not saying I am saying I'm on par with, you know, Bob Dylan and Joni Mitchell, because I am. It doesn't have to do with fame, it's just resonance. I've always known I resonated with those people. Those are my people. And you're in this club too, if you are a creative person. If you are a person who lives primarily through expression, whether it's poetry, fiction, art, dance, whatever's your form of expression, if your main approach to life is expression, creative expression, then you're one of them too. Fame has nothing to do with it. That's an irrelevant, weird thing that people get hung up on. That, you know, in the old days, I imagine we wouldn't have even known much about it. You know, you go back like 500 years, you would just know whether you're like the poor people or the kings, but you don't, like, being in the royal family would be the closest thing to there being fame, I would imagine. Or like being a popular kid. Maybe that one kid who dances in the town is the best dancer, and that's like fame. But it's not this weird thing that you're supposed to like make a business out of. That wasn't what it was, I don't think. I mean, maybe that kid who dances the best in town gets more coins thrown at him, and then you want to be like him, so you practice harder. I have no idea, but I'm just rambling. Anyway, so if you're in crisis, you know, keep looking for solutions. Keep researching, whether it's therapy, whether it's spirituality or religion, or researching on the internet. Anything that keeps your mind moving forward, because it is not one size fits all, and it wasn't for me. Therapy helped for a while, and then it didn't. Like, very much didn't, because of trust issues. And you can look that up. If you type in Jessica and the Rainbow Therapy, you'll probably pull up all of my videos where I ramble about my feelings about therapy and how it is not a 100% good experience for all people. It's complicated, and it's new science. And it might be causing as many problems as it's fixing, as far as I can guess. But similar to any criticisms people have with religion. So anyway, there's cute kids walking by, and they're looking at me, seeing me talking to myself in my car, and it's a very funny thing to look at someone in a car and see them talking to their seat. I actually think it's easier for people to understand if they see me playing an instrument. But it'll be interesting. Once I have a gimbal, I'm going to look like I'm like a real like pro videographer. I mean, I have the gimbal, but I'm intimidated by it. So, well, that's my life. I hope you are having a good life. And yeah, I'm going to eat this banana now. All right, bye.